Welcome to a place where silence speaks louder than screams, and the truth always finds its moment. Here, stories begin with laughter, but end with reckoning. Families gather, smiles are exchanged, and behind every warm glance hides a secret waiting to surface. In tonight's story, mockery turns into fear, respect shifts without warning, and power changes hands without a single threat. A sister laughs too loudly. A fiancé recognizes a face he was never meant to see again. A husband's carefully protected image starts to crack, revealing choices driven by ambition, money, and betrayal. No shouting, no dramatic confrontations, just the kind of truth that arrives quietly and leaves everything changed. If you believe the most powerful revenge is patience and the strongest voice is silence, then you're exactly where you need to be. Stay with this story until the end, because the final moment changes everything. Laughter echoed across the living room, sharp and deliberate, the kind meant to cut instead of amuse. A sister stood at the center of attention, glass raised, voice sweet with sarcasm, as stories were twisted just enough to make everyone laugh at the wrong person. Each joke was carefully aimed, designed to paint someone as small, naive, forgettable. Smiles circled the room, encouraged by the confidence of someone who believed power came from volume and cruelty. The insults kept coming, louder with every nod of approval. Remarks about taste, intelligence, and worth were delivered like entertainment, as if humiliation were part of the celebration. No one noticed the way certain words landed too close to the truth, about money that never added up, about success that arrived too fast, about a marriage that looked perfect only from a distance. The sister laughed hardest, convinced weakness sat quietly across from her. What no one realized was that silence wasn't submission. Every comment was being measured, every reaction stored away. Behind the calm expression sat knowledge that could shatter reputations and rearrange loyalties. Years earlier, a case had crossed a desk involving forged signatures, offshore accounts, and a man willing to sacrifice integrity for ambition. That man now wore the title of husband in this family, praised as dependable, respected as successful. As the laughter peaked, the sister made one final remark, leaning in close enough for the room to hear. It was meant to seal the moment, to declare dominance once and for all. Instead, it exposed more than intended. A familiar name slipped out, careless, arrogant, the same name tied to sealed documents and sworn testimonies. The room didn't notice the shift, but someone else did. Across the room, a fiancé's face drained of color. Recognition hit instantly. Eyes widened, hands tightened, breath caught. That name wasn't a joke, it was a warning. The man married into this family wasn't just admired, he was compromised. Secrets long buried under charm and money suddenly felt dangerously close to the surface. The laughter faded, replaced by an uneasy quiet, and in that silence, power changed hands without a single word being spoken. The laughter didn't stop right away, but something cracked beneath it. A glance from across the room lingered too long, heavy with disbelief. The fiancé had gone still, eyes fixed, smile frozen in a way that didn't belong at a celebration. Recognition had struck hard, dragging up a past he'd buried under years of excuses and carefully edited truths. That face wasn't supposed to be here. It belonged to a courtroom memory, to a decision that ended a marriage and sealed records no one was meant to connect back to him. Confidence drained from his posture as the truth settled in. This wasn't a powerless relative being mocked for sport. This was the judge who once stared through lies without raising a voice, the same authority who signed an order that cost him everything he pretended never to care about. Hands began to shake as a drink was set down too quickly. The sister kept talking, unaware, riding the high of attention, but her fiancé heard nothing else. Every laugh sounded distant now, replaced by the echo of sworn statements and a name that should never be spoken casually. A husband's name, a man praised in this room, trusted with money, loyalty, and love, yet exposed long ago for choosing greed over truth. The fiancé remembered the deal made behind closed doors, the testimony altered just enough to protect the wrong person. He remembered how another woman cried while a husband walked free, reputation intact, secrets locked away by technicalities and favors. That husband now sat comfortably among family, smiling like nothing had ever touched him. Eyes met across the room, and the message was unmistakable. There was no anger, no threat, just calm awareness. It was enough to unravel him. He knew then that silence had never meant ignorance. Every detail had been remembered, every betrayal filed away. The sister finally noticed something was wrong. Her laughter faltered as whispers spread, as attention shifted from her jokes to her fiancé's pale face. She asked what was wrong, but he couldn't answer. Words would expose too much. One sentence could collapse the illusion protecting her marriage, revealing that the man she defended so loudly had once begged for mercy he didn't deserve. The room filled with an uneasy quiet. Smiles faded, respect wavered, and in that stillness the truth hovered, waiting, patient, unstoppable. Silence has a way of forcing memories to speak. In that room, the quiet grew heavy, pressing against the walls the same way it once pressed inside a courtroom years ago. Back then, documents lay neatly stacked, numbers clean on paper, lies cleaner in delivery. Loyalty was sworn with a straight face, while money quietly moved where it didn't belong. Everyone believed the version presented, everyone except the one who had seen it all before. The husband sat comfortably among family, confidence wrapped around him like armor, successful, reliable, untouchable. That image had been carefully built on choices no one here knew about, choices made when ambition mattered more than vows, when shortcuts felt justified, and when betrayal was disguised as survival. A signature placed where it shouldn't have been, funds redirected through names meant to confuse, a partner blamed while the real architect walked free. Eyes around the room searched for explanations as tension thickened. The fiancé's earlier panic hadn't come from nowhere, it came from recognition, of records sealed, of testimony adjusted, of a ruling that spared one man and destroyed another family. That ruling had followed the law, but the truth behind it had never been forgotten. Integrity had been offered once, quietly, and rejected just as quietly. The husband shifted in his seat, sensing the change without understanding it. Jokes no longer landed, admiration felt forced. A casual question about business froze him mid-answer. Someone mentioned timelines, then amounts, then names that shouldn't have been connected so easily. Each word peeled away another layer of protection. In that moment, the courtroom returned, not with raised voices, but with absolute stillness. The kind where guilt speaks louder than accusation. The kind where truth doesn't need to be proven again because it already has been. Loyalty, once broken, never fully hides. It leaks into behavior, into fear, into the way a man avoids eye contact when the past comes too close. Family bonds strained as realizations spread. The cracks didn't come from old grudges or petty jealousy. They came from understanding who made the first dishonest choice, who traded trust for advancement, who smiled through dinners while standing on someone else's ruins. No confrontation was necessary, no explanation demanded. The truth had surfaced on its own, undeniable and irreversible. And once it did, nothing could protect him anymore. The moment arrived without drama. No raised voices, no trembling hands. No need to defend dignity that never required permission. While others waited for an outburst, calm settled in instead. Truth has its own timing, and when it chooses to surface, it doesn't ask for approval. The sisters' confidence had already begun to crack, laughter replaced by restless glances. What once felt like control now felt fragile. Respect in the room shifted quietly, almost politely, as attention moved away from mockery and toward unease. Every smile directed at the husband suddenly carried doubt. Admiration doesn't survive unanswered questions. A simple conversation did the damage. No accusations, just facts placed gently into the open. Business dealings mentioned in passing, dates aligned too neatly, numbers that no longer made sense. The kind of details only someone patient would remember. The husband tried to respond casually, but the rhythm was off. Words stumbled. The practiced charm failed to land. Years of betrayal had taught restraint. Secrets don't collapse from force. They unravel when given space. Loyalty had been promised once and broken silently. Money had been moved quietly. Trust had been traded for status, and love treated as collateral damage. That truth didn't need to be shouted. It only needed to be heard. The sister finally realized kindness had been misread. Silence had never meant ignorance. It had meant control. The power she believed belonged to volume now belonged to restraint. Eyes that once looked down now avoided contact altogether. The husband's fear became visible, not because of what was said, but because of what could be said next. Every secret carried weight, and everyone in that room could feel it. The respect he'd built collapsed under the realization that it was never earned honestly. He wasn't admired anymore. He was exposed. No one defended him. No one laughed. Even the sister stood still, understanding too late that the person she mocked held every answer she didn't want revealed. Family loyalty shifted not out of revenge, but out of clarity. Betrayal loses its power once it's seen. No confrontation followed. None was needed. The room understood who had mistaken kindness for weakness and who had quietly won without saying a word.
If this story kept you watching, don't forget to like. It helps more than you think. Subscribe for more powerful stories where hidden truths rise, betrayals are exposed, and quiet strength always wins. Turn on notifications so you never miss the moment when silence becomes justice. See you in the next story.